Thank you for joining us, Chelsea.
Happy day. Good morning, Bree and Chris.
Hi.
So we saw a release that you guys had come out with, and apparently Department of Agriculture, there's some CARES Act funding for fishermen. Now, the application, you sent it out. I put that in about...
Or the registration form.
The registration, right? I put that in about 20 different group chats that I'm in.
I think we posted it
Fantastic.
online.
Thank you. That was the full intention of sending it out via WhatsApp.
Right. And so tell us a little bit about this.
Okay, so the U.S. Department of Commerce, with through the CARES Act, receives $300 million for fisheries across the United States and territories. $1 million of that was apportioned for Guam. So the process has been that NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, will develop guidelines, provide those guidelines to a specific fisheries commission. There are several federal fisheries commissions. They'll designate one to work with Guam, provide them the guidelines, and then that commission is supposed to work with Guam on developing a plan. I had two different conversations with NOAA, different people in NOAA in the last 2 weeks, and they were still working on developing those guidelines. But I just received an email from one of the fisheries commissions, I think maybe a day or two ago, and they're asking us and the CNMI and American Samoa when we'll be available for a teleconference. So I'm assuming that perhaps they've received those guidelines now, and they want to initiate the conversation on working, developing a draft plan with us. But Guam took, we took the advantage of the opportunity, since they were still developing the guidelines, to come up with our own draft plan. So we're ready to hit the ground running when they want to start this conversation. And when we came up with the plan at Agriculture, we worked with our Western Pacific Fisheries Advisory Panel, which is made up of fishers from Guam. We spoke with Manny Duenas at the Fishermen's Co-op too about the draft plan, just to make sure that everybody understood where we, our perspective, our process, and how we wanted to handle it with locally. And we got everyone's input and approval on the process. So we feel really confident that our plan is something that the commission will be amenable to. I discussed the plan with NOAA too. So it seems like everyone's on board and we're ready to go. So we knew that the first step in all of this would be to identify who our fishers are on Guam.
Right.
So we created this registration form. And we've been disseminating it so that we'll already have our group of people ready when the process is ready. And this also has a second benefit in that there's never been a comprehensive database.
I was just going to say
who
how
our fishers are on
right.
Guam.
How key is that info to have all these guys' names? I mean, because when you do actions or find out things that impact fishermen, you're right. It's good to have that. I mean, it's basically an address book of all the fishermen on Guam. So.
And it's wonderful because it also has this ongoing conversation now with fishers on Guam and the Department of Agriculture, DAR Fisheries, which hasn't always been, excellent relationship. And now we get to have a better one. We've had great relationships with fishermen here and fishermen there, but I think now that we get to have a whole group of them together and know who they are, we can share information with them more willingly and get more input from them on issues that we want to discuss with everyone. And we have opportunities now to expand our outreach and our education. So it's just a great all-around opportunity, I think, for the department and for our fishing community.
So, Chelsea, who's this? We know it's for fishers, but I mean, what's it for? They have to have been impacted by COVID?
So the initial intent was for, and this is through the Department of Commerce press release, was to help commercial fishers primarily, but it is also open to cultural and sustenance fishers as well.
But not reef rapers, right? We're not going.
Well, we actually considered that, honestly, as part of our conversation. I mean, we had to think about what about the poachers, or what about the guys we know who are out there fishing in ways that we think are, reprehensible.
Not sustainable, yeah.
And what it comes down to is we don't really have a way of distinguishing them from everybody else.
Right.
So we just have to make this available to everyone.
So it's just, if you're a fisherman, come get money. That's it?
Well, no, there's going to be more guidelines than that.
Darn.
For example, with
do you actually have to catch fish, Chelsea? Because I'm a fisherman, but just the whole catching the fish part.
Well, I've stood in the water and swam in the water and avoided triggerfish, but that doesn't qualify me.
Pescador!
So for commercial fishers, what Commerce had wanted and put as a guideline was that they have to be able to demonstrate 35% loss of revenue during this time. So we have 3 tiers that we created in our draft plan, and the first would be commercial fishers who are registered, licensed, and able to provide documentation for their 35% loss. And the second tier would be commercial fishers who may not have as much documentation, but they catch fish and sell it either to the co-op or to restaurants or to hotels. And if they can provide a sworn statement and then also provide a statement from those who buy fish from them, and maybe they have some documentation, then they'll be able to receive a specified amount of money. And then our sustenance fishers would be those who would also provide a sworn statement. And we want to be able to compare the listing of those with entities like the co-op, who may have a listing of registered commercial fishers as well, going back several years. So we're going to be able to cross-check names and verify that people are actually fishers.
So no posers.
Trying,
Yeah.
I'm sure some will get through, but what can you do? We just want to make sure that we get the benefits out to as many people as possible.
Right on. Chelsea, there were some comments on our Facebook feed about the pig derby and the quality of the meat and the potential risk associated with the feral pigs. How do you address that? Because I put they had to sign a waiver, but do you guys feel confident that absolves you of any liability?
Well, first, I want to say that our pig derby was a huge community success, and I'm super proud to be a part of the Department of Agriculture and all the really hardworking people who spent countless hours putting this together. I mean, we had staff who were manning check stations for over 15 hours a day just to help with this entire derby, and we had Senator Ragel's office that was able to provide connections with the Chuukese community who came in and participated and were able to receive a bunch of pigs. And I mean, there's the rules and then there's what we know culturally. And the rules say that, the pigs have bacteria, parasites, viruses, and the only way to ensure that you don't get sick is safe handling and thorough cooking. And we provided guidelines for everyone with that. Whether you were a hunter or you received pigs, we provided safe handling guidelines. And then we did have the waiver of liability that explains that the government of Guam will not be held liable for, whatever various reasons, just to indemnify us from all of that. But then what we know culturally is that there are people who've been handling pigs for decades, and it's across all of our islands. Yeah. So we knew that every family receiving pigs were those who've done it before or engaged in that process. And you didn't have people who've never handled a pig coming up going, hey, can I get a pig?
Right.
And on whatever island, whether you're from here, Sinamai, Palau, Chuuk, Yap, whatever, they have pigs that they catch and process there.
Right.
So I can say that, we feel fairly confident that people know what they're doing, that we trust that they know what they're doing. And if they didn't, then we provided them instructions for how to do that.
Right on. Well, thank you for that, Chelsea. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on with your department, especially as we get back into the swing of things. So, keep me in the loop. Shoot me a message. And anytime you need, we'll get you on if you got to get the word out about something.
Thank you so much, and we will absolutely do that.
All right. Take
All
care.
right,
Thank
you. Okay.
Thank you. You
See you.
Bye.
Wash your hands.
Always.
Okay.